on Wednesday, September 8th, 2021. I'd like to call this Accessibility Advisory Committee meeting to order. So we'll begin with procedural notes. This meeting is being held electronically as per section 19.1 of the town's procedure bylaw number 6228-19 as amended due to the COVID-19 situation. May I have a motion to approve the agenda as circulated by Legislative Services?
Matthew.
Thanks, Matthew. And a second?
I'll second it. Joanne.
Thank you. Thanks, Joanne. Are there any questions or comments on the agenda? Okay, I'll call the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that carries. Okay, so are there any declarations of pecuniary interest this evening? Okay, it sounds like there are no declarations of pecuniary interest. Moving on to receipt of the minutes. May I have, please, a motion to receive the meeting minutes of June 9th, 2021?
Matthew.
Thanks, Matthew. And a second?
I'll do it if nobody else is.
All right, thank you. All right, are there any questions or comments on the minutes from June 9th, 2021? All right, I'll call the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, any opposed? That carries. Delegations, we have no delegations this evening. And that brings us to our matters for consideration. So we'll start with 6.1, and that is the memorandum from Accessibility Advisor regarding site plan application SP-2021-08, submission 1, and that's for 20 and 25 Mavernack Boulevard. May I have a mover and a seconder to put the item on the floor for the session?
Matthew.
Thank you. And a second?
Joanne.
Thanks, Joanne. Okay, Matt, did you want to get us started?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, we can get it. Go ahead. So we are going to be taking a look at SP 2021-08. This is it's quote unquote the first time that we're taking a look at the site plan application because this is focused on the senior center, but the committee has actually seen this specific drawing in the past. And so I'll zoom in just to kind of give you guys a good debriefing on what we're taking a look at. So this is going to be on the intersection of Wellington and Mavernack. So this is just right next to the Stronach Recreation Complex and across from Magna Center. Now, a couple of things. And so just to give you guys a very brief overview, you can see based on, first of all, you guys can see my screen, correct?
Yes.
I should double check that. Yeah, okay, perfect. And so we're going to be focusing over here on the seniors building for this application. But throughout this residential area, you can see that we've got a couple of different areas for the homes. We've got a couple of parkettes. And then on the west side, it's pretty much a mirror minus the actual senior center. So again, some residential buildings. And then an additional park over here on the west side of the residencies as well. So going into the comments, and again, like we have taken a look at this and there wasn't too many comments from the committee previously, but we'll give you a quick rundown. So we'll start on the east side. Obviously, Wellington currently, as many of you know, already has a bike path and exterior path of travel that kind of leads all the way from Leslie Street down to Bayview. Now, it does have a couple of connection points that lead into this specific residential area. Now, where you can see my mouse hovering close to the right side of the map, there is a sidewalk that leads into the residencies. It's not the best exterior path of travel. And the only reason I say that is you can see that the snow storage is kind of here on the side. I imagine as big snowstorms kind of go in, there could be some accumulation that happens over here towards that dead end piece of the street. Now, the reason I'm highlighting that is because for the seniors building over here, there is no real great path that leads to Wellington. A lot of the residential homes, they'll probably be able to walk around the snow path and be able to get over there. But for the seniors home, the only path that really leads to Wellington, and you guys can follow my mouse here. So the front entrance of the building is located over here, and there is no real other exterior paths of travel that lead to Wellington. So as soon as they exit the building, they'd have to go pretty much northbound all the way around the building, go west, and then travel along the southbound Mavernack Boulevard Road in order to be able to get over to Wellington Street. What I was commenting in the senior center building was for this east exit to actually lead back down south over here and create another exterior path of travel. So this is one of the comments that I laid in over here. We'll see whether or not the developer takes it on, but I think that would be a good access route for people to be able to come out, especially considering that there is a doorway that leads out over here. So as long as the grading allows for it, we've asked that the developer provides another exterior path of travel that leads down over to Wellington sidewalk. I didn't have any concerns with the barrier-free parking. You can see that the parking lot over here, it's not too expansive. There is, as far as these drawings show, there's nothing that leads underground for this parking lot. So they have provided 5 barrier-free parking spots over here. 2 of them that I'm currently highlighting are type A, and then the additional 3 are type B. So they comply with the AODA, no issues over there. For our parkettes, and this was already mentioned in our previous revisions of the site plan, but I added in anyway for the parks for them to consider our regular comments in terms of sensory features and for them to basically come back to us with anything they plan on installing over there. Additionally, if they're going to be putting any kind of outdoor eating areas over here to ensure that they're providing obviously accessible tables as well. Now, in terms of parking, let me go through the residential area very quickly with you guys. Again, we've looked at this before. So you can see over here for the blocks where we have provided visitor parking, there is barrier-free parking that's usually associated with each of the areas. So you can see where my mouse is currently highlighting. We have a type A spot over here on the northbound side of this specific area. And then again, allocated on the south side. The one issue that I highlighted is specifically for block 12, because there was nothing really in terms of either on-street parking or for visitor parking that has any barrier-free parking for this row of houses that are going to be installed over here. So one of the comments is to add an additional barrier-free parking spot over here to just kind of create at least something for the visitors that would be coming over here to block 11 and block 12. On the opposite side, you can see that the barrier-free parking is pretty well distributed considering what we have. Like I said, with the senior center building, we've got 5 spots over here. And then for block 24, there is a barrier-free parking located here on the south side. And then there's an additional one located over here on the north side. All these houses do have a connection through an exterior path of travel. So you can see over here, there's an exterior path of travel that starts on block 27. And then parallel, you can see between block 24 and block 23, there is an exterior path of travel that kind of leads northbound. And then there are connection points, right? So you'll see from these blocks to block 22, there's an exterior path of travel. And then continuing off this block to the existing residential areas, there are sidewalks located here. So although there isn't an excess amount of exterior paths of travel, there is enough that technically is located between each of the blocks of residential homes that connects them and provides a path of travel for people to be able to get over to Mavernack and then back down to Leslie. And then the same thing applies on the west side of the buildings where you can see, again, exterior paths of travel that are located. Now, one of the things the committee might want to consider is whether or not we want to kind of consider a crosswalk that goes across the parquet and the sidewalks over here between these specific blocks. Before you guys answer that, I'll just jump over to the east side and I'll highlight that this one just currently in the site plan application doesn't have a lot of detail on what the entrance is into this park quite yet. So I didn't make a comment on that because as of right now, you can see that they have on-street parking located over here on the street side. But the way the map currently is designed, they're not really showing any of the features or the design of what the park is going to look like. So that might be a comment that we can add in if you guys would like to see, is for the west side to create some kind of crosswalk between the sidewalks over here, between block 11 and 12 to the park, And then this is block 7 and 8, I believe, that would lead over to the other side of the park. And so that was it from me in terms of comments for this site plan application. And so I'll open it to the committee to answer the one question I had and see if there's any other comments that you guys would like to add in for the site plan application. So I'll start off with just asking my question. Does everyone agree that we would like to see an additional crosswalk over here added in between the blocks to the West Side Park?
Yes.
Yes, okay.
And I have another question. This
Yep.
is more of like a question of like, what does it mean? But there's on the top, on your bottom left, you have a red star, and above the red star, it says 46 mode. What is that building?
So we're taking a look at this guy over here, right, Matthew?
Yeah, down to your.
Yep. So I would have to zoom out. Let's see if we can quickly read this. It's hard right now on the screen. Bear with me here. Looks like it's in the top left.
Because I looked at the ledger and I don't see anything that answers that question.
Yeah, I don't see it either on here. It might be somewhere deep in the details over here. But I can make a note of that, Matthew, and I can respond back to the entire committee with what's indicated on that star over there. But I'm not seeing anything on the legend or anything over here that would indicate what that is.
Because I know that that piece of land in that area, there was a transaction between the developer and the region. So in that general area. So I'm wondering if that's like a pumping station or some kind of like water.
I would imagine it's either a pumping station or some kind of utility station over here that's going to be added in. That's what I would imagine. We can see that it's not like it's not a home or anything. So that's what it would be basically placed in there. So I would agree. And that's what my assumption would be, but I would have to just double check to let you know what that is exactly.
Yeah.
But good question.
And there doesn't seem to be like a lot of like access for like the blocks like over by like block 8, 1, 2, 3, that area to like Wellington. Like everything involves walking over to Maverick.
Yeah. And one of the things I will say that's difficult, because I agree, like you can see, like you're right, there's a sidewalk. Basically you walk up and then you go all the way back down to Maverick in order to get to Wellington. The grade, for those of you that are familiar over here, usually from like that building area down to the Wellington Street, is pretty steep. So that's probably why they're not considering anything. And I do know that that's a fact, because for the other side over here, like this residential street, I was speaking with town staff members that were asking the same question. They were wondering whether or not there's an opportunity for us to create a connection point over here between this residential area. And the issue is the grading, but we can explore and ask the developer whether or not there is that option. But just based off like what I've seen looking at Wellington, that's a pretty steep area. So I don't know whether or not it's feasible to add something in behind these homes over here. But we could ask.
Because I see on the like the corner, you have one, they have one that says a 1.5 meter pedestrian sidewalk. So they've already have one connecting from Maverick just beside block 16.
Yep.
Yeah, so that's good.
But I agree still that you want to kind of try to get, I know what you're saying with these blocks, like block 8, 9 and stuff, rather than them having to walk all the way through here in order to get to Wellington. That would be nice to get kind of a passage. Now, whether or not with this building being installed over here and these homes being here, whether there's enough space between the properties to create an exterior path of travel, we'll have to wait and see. But we can ask to see whether or not there's an opportunity to implement something over here, similar to what we were mentioning with the seniors building of adding one on this side as well.
Yeah, I was in Hamilton recently, and I was in a place that was similar to this, and I noticed Hamilton requires them to have signage on the pedestrian walkways telling you what road that pathway leads to.
So like wayfinding signage?
Yeah, so like a sign, it would tell you that this road goes to Maverick with an arrow pointing that way, and on the other side, it would have an arrow pointing to whatever the road name over there is.
Huh. I'm curious whether or not that's instilled in like their bylaws and stuff, whether or not that's like kind of like a mandate, or if that's something that they discuss with the developers and like within like their municipality. But I'm curious about that. It's actually a good point to see whether or not we can start looking at that in terms of like wayfinding signage for neighborhoods.
Yeah, because for a lot of people, it's just trying to figure out what
For
leads
sure.
where is the starting point of trying alternative ways of getting around besides cars. So that's all my comments. I don't have any more.
Thank you, Matthew. I've got all of them down. Anyone else? I'm just going to check the chat because I haven't been able to take a look at that until now. John's trying to figure it out. Wendy was asking to speak. Oh, I hear you, John. Yeah, you're in now.
Yeah, I'm using the phone.
No worries. And then Ishita, Wendy was asking whether or not she can speak. I don't know how that works. Do you mind chiming in on that piece? We've got Councillor Gartner in here as well.
Not at all. So through you to the committee. No. So basically, Councillor Gardner, if you have any questions, you're more than welcome to ask after all the committee members have spoken. So yeah, she's there at the meeting. So yeah,
Perfect.
more than welcome to take any questions if they're there, Councillor.
Thank you.
It's
Do you
good
have
to
any
see you,
questions?
Councillor.
Councillor Gartner, do you have any questions?
Yes, I just joined tonight because I wanted to be at least at the meeting, but I didn't realize this was going to be discussed. So disclosure, I voted against this on the grounds that it was too dense and there was not a lot of park space.
Mm-hmm.
But with respect to the paths of travel, we're on Wellington. That's where you're going to have your transportation, your public transit. And I'm wondering, Matt, and I don't know, with the seniors building, I don't know if it's like a seniors living building or a seniors assist building, but it is possible that there will be staff who will be taking public transit. And if we're going to ask them to climb over the snow storage, or even obviously the residents, but the staff as well, I don't have the grade in my head, but if you say it's steep, then that's why they haven't included it. But it's
I think, and I apologize for cutting you off. I think on this side, the grade from and again, this is off visual, right? Like we don't have grades showing on this side over here. So this is just off my memory of taking a look at Wellington. I believe on this side, it's not too bad, right? Like you can see there's an exterior path of travel that's already located here. So I assume that they should be able to add in an additional one over here next to the seniors building that connects. And with regards to snow storage, you can see over here where my mouse is hovering. This is the snow storage area.
right.
And so there is a path that leads into the neighborhood. If there's overflow, and this is just off experience, which all of us know, there's always overflow, right? And so you kind of assume that there's going to be something that kind of starts blocking off that area, especially with the storm coming through that doesn't get cleaned up too quickly, then there might be an issue with getting in through that area. All the residents do have a means to get to Wellington, like we were pointing out earlier, unfortunately. And that's what Matthew and I were discussing, is just that long path over here. You can see it leads all the way around, down over here through Mavernack in order to get to Wellington. So the neighborhood technically has the exterior paths of travel. We're just hoping to make it a little bit more friendly for people.
On Google Maps Street View, it looks actually pretty level with the sidewalk.
Yeah. So
unless
then
they're going to backfill it up or dig it in, I don't really see how that is an issue like other areas of Aurora.
Yeah, so we've made the comment, it's already in there. We haven't heard back yet, like the site plan just went in, and so we'll hear back, but we have requested that they add that exterior path of travel in there to create an additional path for people to get to Wellington Street.
Thank you. And with this subdivision, I never considered it, but I will in the future. It seems to me that it's disrespectful for anybody that does have a physical disability, especially, to have to go through this whole subdivision and then down Mavernack before they can get to public transit or, so it's something I'll keep in mind for the future, but I don't like the way it's laid out here. I think it's disrespectful to those who may want to be walking and who might be challenged. Thank you.
Agreed. Thank you, Wendy. Okay, so Madam Chair, I think that's it for comments. So I think we're good
right.
to move along.
Perfect. Okay, so if there are no further comments from the committee, I'll call the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great. Any opposed? Okay, that carries. That brings us to item 6.2, memorandum from Accessibility Advisor regarding site plan application OPA 2021-03, ZBA 2021-03, and SP-2021-07, submission 1. This is for 15296, 15306, and 15314 Young Street. May I have a mover and a seconder to put the item
Matthew.
on the table for Thank you, Matthew, and a seconder.
John?
Thank you very much, John. Okay, if you want to take the reins on this, Matt.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and good job with getting that title out there. That was a long one.
I know. I practiced that ahead of time.
Yeah, did you? Yeah, that was a good one. Okay, so this is the first time that we're taking a look at this specific site plan application. So overall, it's pretty simple. I do have a couple of comments, but in terms of a review for the committee, we shouldn't have too many issues that I can think of. So we'll go ahead and jump in. So I'm just going to zoom in on the map very quickly, just so you guys can see it on your screen. So you can see that we're currently kind of looking at Irwin Avenue, Yonge Street, and Catherine Avenue area. So it's just on that little block. Now, jumping over to the actual site plan, and let me just zoom out a tiny bit for you guys. There we go. We should follow with that pretty easily. Okay, so as you can see over here, along the mouse that I'm drawing over here, we have Irwin Street, and then along the bottom of the page, we've got Yonge Street, just so you guys can kind of orient yourselves. So following along Yonge Street, we have our exterior path of travel, and then you have your residential suites. So this is a 6-story residential building. All along the bottom, you can see we have a couple of patios for the private residencies. And then leading over to the Irwin Avenue Street, you'll get your exterior path of travel leading into the building and towards the actual entrance of the parking lot. So as soon as people take up Irving, they're able to go into the parking lot. And as you can see, they currently have 5 spots situated for visitors coming into the specific residential area. And they actually have a drop-off area, which we don't see that often actually on a lot of the buildings that we take a look at. So I thought that was a nice addition that they've added in. Now, in terms of the barrier-free parking for the visitors between these 5 spots, they have 2. So obviously we are well above the expectation for that, which is great. One of the issues that I had with this specific drawing is that although they have provided a drop-off area, which is nice, you can see that the entrance into the building is located over here, but they're using the accessible aisle between the type A and type B spot as their almost, it looks like they're indicating that you get dropped off right over here in front of these 2 parking spots, and that people can walk through the access aisle to get to the sidewalk and then lead into the building itself. And so I made the comment over here to turn this into what we expect, which is high tonal contrast diagonal lines. So that way people understand that this is an access aisle. And I've requested that this actually gets turned over here where you have the drop off that leads directly into the entrance. Now, my thought with that is at least now people will drop off and park their car here, and people can obviously step out and go along where my mouse is onto the exterior path of travel and enter into the building. This way, we don't at least have the accessible spots not only blocked off if someone's parked here trying to drop somebody off, but you also don't have people, I don't want to use the word abusing, but not using the access aisle as a means of entering onto the exterior path of travel in case there's anyone in the spots trying to get out of their vehicles, right? So obviously this can be used as a commonly shared way of entering in, but my preference would be obviously for the access aisle to be designated to the barrier-free parking spots. and that there's an actual exterior path of travel for the drop-off that leads directly to the main entrance of the building. And so I normally wait to the end, but I'll pause there. Do you guys agree with that comment where we would like to see the exterior path of travel separate from the access aisle?
Makes sense.
Makes sense. No one has any issues with
Yep.
that? Okay, I'm not hearing anything, so that's good. So before we go on to the next page, I'll also highlight coming out of the indoor amenities that are located in the building. We'll take a look at those shortly. There is an outdoor eating area over here. So you can see they have obviously some landscaping done, an outdoor eating area. And so they would have to provide some accessible seating in order to kind of comply with, not kind of, but comply with the AODA. So I'm just going to zoom out and then we'll go ahead and jump over to the next page. Any questions on this page before we go into the interior of the building? We'll be taking a look at the interior parking lots afterwards.
The outdoor dining spot, there's stairs at the other end, it looks like.
Hmm.
Person has to leave.
Yep. So this is behind over here, like where the retaining wall is. And
Main
so
wall is,
off
and then
my,
further down, yeah.
yeah, so off my memory, I believe this exit leads from the underground parking lot. And so people are able to walk down over here and take the stairs over into the actual park located, no, not park, but an amenity leading outside. And then you can see from the actual indoor building, you have a flat grade for people to get in from the building itself.
Is there going to be door operators on those doors?
So under the OBC, every public access door would require some kind of door operator.
Yeah.
So yes.
Yeah, I know the law. And just,
Yep. And I put it in my comments as well. So they're in there for both.
yeah, because we've had issues in the past with that in Aurora. So
Correct. Any other questions? And then I'll jump over.
the one question I have
Yep.
is they're putting in, looks like on the side of the building on the right, they have an Irwin Avenue. They have a sidewalk, which they're connecting to existing, and they're putting in 3 trees.
Okay.
The issue with trees and as they get older is they grow and lift things out of the ground. So I was wondering if they were going to be what kind of measures are they going to use to prevent the trees from uprooting the sidewalk in the future?
That's a fantastic question. And I have no expertise in that area. So I don't know how to answer that question for you, Matthew, but I can take a note of that piece and speak to the landscape architect and see how that would work. But that's outside of my area of competence. So I wouldn't be able to comment on that piece.
I know with Richmond Hill, especially on the projects along Yonge Street now, they're requiring developers to put in basically like these specialized blocks that go above ground. They plant the tree, they put dirt and grass over top of it, and the blocks prevent the tree roots from growing and lifting the sidewalks up.
Okay. Yeah, I can speak with Gary from the operations team about that piece, but again, yeah. I wouldn't know the answer to that one for sure. I'm not going to pretend like I do.
But that's my question for this part. So
got it. Yeah, I wrote it down.
I'm trying to think of unique things to ask you.
That's good. Yeah. You know what? Like the interesting questions you guys give me an opportunity to speak to other staff and increase my own skills. So have at it all day long. Okay. So we've got a lot of drawings. So I'm going to go ahead and jump into the next ones. So we're now taking a look at the underground parking lot. So I'm just going to zoom in on each of the quadrants and we'll go through them one by one. So as you can see here, we're taking a look at P1. So this is the first parking level that you would see entering in from the exterior parking lot. And right off the bat, one of the comments that I mentioned over here is for the type A spot to be relocated. So you can see the elevators are over here for the lower lobby. They do have one type B spot and its accessible aisle located right next to it, which is fantastic. But for some reason, they decided to hitch the type A spot, the larger spot, all the way over here. And so people would have to park walk all the way across the parking lot, enter into the vestibule, and then enter into the lobby. And so I've asked that this spot gets moved over somewhere along here, obviously the shortest route possible. So that way they can enter into the vestibule and then get into the elevator lobby. There's no real reason for the accessible spot to be located there. I'm sure they did it because I can see they have a structural wall where my mouse is hovering. And so I'm assuming just space wise, it made the most sense, but doesn't cut it. They'll have to move it. So we've requested that piece for them to make that change. Going over to, sorry, go ahead.
Matt?
Yep.
Yeah, there's columns beside those parking spots that you're suggesting.
Yeah, so I'm
Small
thinking,
columns?
yeah, they'll have to unfortunately use 2 spots to make the suggestion. So they would have to use the majority of these 2 spots to make one type A. And then hopefully between that column, there's enough space for them to be able to add in that access aisle. So if it's not a feasible option, obviously the developer will tell us and we can discuss it on the next submissions, but we'll let them come back to us with a reason if they can't do it.
Okay.
Perfect. So we're going to jump over to the second P level. So this is just 1 floor below, and you can see the same thing where we have our elevator lobby, and they've actually designated both the barrier-free parking spots right next to it. So had no comments or concerns with that. And so that one looks pretty good to me. Going along the bottom, you'll take a look at the floor plans. And so this is where we'll move pretty quickly. You can see that there isn't really much to discuss over here. So each of the levels, let me just zoom in a little bit more for you guys. So each of the levels basically have just 1 bedroom or 2 bedroom buildings within it. You can see there's a number of staircases. We have indicated in the comments for consideration to provide evacuation chairs in these staircases that are being provided. Obviously, there's the elevator that is provided to get you up to each of these 6 levels. And then they've highlighted that there is the amenity, and this is where you can see it's leading out to the outdoor amenity that we were taking a look on the outside. Same thing, jumping over here to the opposite side, you can see it's just another floor. This one does have a couple of locker units that are available, but we'll notice that the trend basically for each of the floors is pretty much the same, where you just have bedroom residencies and no other real topics to really discuss on the next couple of slides, but we'll go through them just to kind of give you guys a very quick overview. So same thing on the second floor, more of the same old thing, just bedrooms. Sliding over once again, same thing, just to give you guys a clear view. Third quadrant, same thing, just increase in bedroom sizes. And then the fourth quadrant, exact same thing. Okay, so we're going ahead and taking a look at the elevations now, so you guys have a better idea of what this building looks like physically. So you can see just from these pictures, just a regular residency. Nothing too big. There's a good outdoor exterior view of it.
Looks like the same as the one that's next to it.
Yep, basically. And
So
that was, sorry. And I was just going to say, in terms of comments, I also included in there that we have obviously rest areas provided along the exterior path of travel, as long as it doesn't impede the exterior path that was leading around the building. And as Matthew indicated earlier, the comment is in there for the door operators to be included on any of the public access routes into the building. And then the last one I also included in there was our regular comment for the tactile indicators to be included as per the OBC for all the staircases leading out of the building. And I apologize to whoever I cut off there, but go ahead. So
I did the math on because there's a guide that tells that the one's parking spot is 2.70. So if you, between the columns in the middle of the parking.
For the underground parking you're referring to?
Yeah, for the accessible. So if they take out one of those, it's 5.4. And the current standard that they have for their total is 5.15. So it'll actually be bigger than the one they currently have for a type A.
Okay, so then we shouldn't have any issues with it being added in there.
Yeah.
Perfect. So yeah, we'll keep the comment as is then. So that works.
Yeah,
Thank you, Matthew.
math quickly, so that's good.
That's great.
Another question.
Yep.
What is there's a, one of the document says something about storm tank next to the left, on the left map, top right.
Oh, too much. Storm tank over here.
Yeah,
I'm going to assume it's just the water flow from the exterior that's going in there, but this wouldn't have anything to do with.
I'm just curious, like, yeah.
What it is. Yeah,
Yeah.
same thing as well. This is outside of the AODA, so I don't really focus on these pieces, but I'm happy to look into it for you, Matthew.
Yeah.
They recycle the water for irrigation purposes.
Oh, that's good.
There you go.
Thanks, John.
I agree. Thank you, John.
Matt,
Yes.
quick question. On the page that shows the access from, I think it's Young Street, where it shows the vestibule entrance there.
This one?
I can't remember. No, it's not that one. It says there's a lift, I believe. I think it's prior to this one. It's one of the earlier ones. I apologize for not bringing it up earlier when you were on it.
No problem. Let's take a quick look. You were talking on the main like floors, right? We're not talking parking or anything.
No, main floor, where like the lobby and stuff would be, I guess. When you enter the building, I think from Young Street, it looks like it says lift. There it is, yeah. That's the main entrance, right? Like from Young Street, or it says vest,
The
which I
vestibule?
presume is vestibule.
Yep. So this would be
And then there's stairs. Yeah, so there's stairs and then a lift. So they say it's a 2-story upper. So does that mean when you go in, like the main lobby's on a second floor type thing?
It could be. The drawings aren't very clear over here as to what this looks like. Usually when we kind of get into the further stages, they'll indicate what this looks like. But yes, this could be a 2-story upper lobby, like they have 2 different levels. So you would enter in and then they have a lift that takes you to the second story of the specific lobby. And then there's probably just a normal exterior path right from the vestibule that would lead you to the lounge area where you have your elevators.
Yeah, I mean, when I saw that, I thought, well, that's very unfortunate because I know that, I mean, in actually the condo buildings across from that, the Centra ones or whatever they're called.
Right.
They have the same sort of format where, you know, when you enter from Young Street, you have to access the lobby, you have to go up the little lift thing, right? Which requires a key and all of that nonsense, which those are the worst things ever. And I know, I mean, obviously it looks like they've already planned to do it, but I mean, in terms of, you know, someone who's accessing it from, you know, the Young Street sidewalk and doesn't want to, I mean, they're not going to access it through the car and the underground parking. The only option for them, I guess, is this lift, unless there's another entry access point that I'm missing here. But those things just break down all the time, those lifts. And every time I see that they're sort of depending on that for any sort of wheelchair or mobility device access, it always just rubs me the wrong way because they're just awful things.
So to answer your question, one, I agree. Even our schools over here, I forget if it was Williams or one of the other guys on Young Street over there close to, it wasn't Williams. It was not Highview, but the one before it. You guys can refresh my memory on the name. But they have a lift system in their school as well. And one, I don't like it because you have to ask somebody to be able to use the lift, right? So it's not really universal in the sense of being able to access the lobby. If you want to access it, you need somebody to assist you. And then to your question on the second floor, you can see over here that there is no access. It's just basically an open view to where the lobby and the vestibule would be below.
Yeah.
Now, in terms of comments, unfortunately, so by regulation and stuff, they're technically doing a solid. As much as I hate to say that, they are providing a lift that leads to the upper lobby.
Right.
I think we all agree that we're not a fan of the lifts, but unfortunately, I don't believe that there is a better solution to this other than the fact that just the lobby should be on the main floor. But I don't think it would be really in our in our best interest to be telling them to just scrap their whole idea for an extra lobby area just because we're not a fan of the lift, right? So that would just be food for thought for the committee.
Yeah, I understand that, but so I am right in assuming that that is the only main level entrance that's not, going through the underground parking. Is that correct?
Correct. Yep. Yeah.
Okay.
So people would be entering in through the vestibule over here. You would have from your parking lot over here through the balcony. They're not showing the doorways, but there would be, right? Because we were seeing on the opposite side that there was parking over there. Let's drop back to the other page.
Can I ask a question
Right.
on that?
Sorry, Joanne, 1 second. I just want to finish off with Rochelle's here. So see how they're pointing out the entrance area over here. I'm assuming that there is one located on the exterior path, not on the exterior, on the rear side of the building. But now when we jump back over to the page we were just on, where we're taking a look at the main level, that's just not being indicated over here. So you can see that there's a balcony. But they're just not showing the doorway, but it is indicated on the opposite side. So really there should be something coming in from this side of the building. You have the front vestibule coming in off Yonge Street, and then you have the entrances from the outdoor amenity leading from the building. And you had that, the staircase that John mentioned at the beginning of the conversation that was up here as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you for clarifying that. I mean, I just wanted to register my disappointment in the lift, but I mean, other than that, I know we're not going to ask them to change it. So.
Yeah, I agree. And I agree with you on the lifts there. Joanne, you were inquiring?
Well, I was just thinking of if people have a feeling about this lift, is it not something that the town can get more advice on as to, type A lift, type B lift, type C lift, whatever you should be using, and actually go to them with a solution to it that might solve this problem and get a better lift?
So I think our concern is just more with the fact that it's not universal, right? Like, and what I mean by that is people aren't able to use it themselves regularly. So private institutions such as this that own a residential building would probably have a key that operates it. It's not like an elevator. So Joanne, if you've never seen one of these, usually it's kind of like a gate that you'd be able to walk into. And then there's a key that gets kind of punched into like an elevator panel wall. And then that's what functions the lift to be able to go up just one floor. And
So the church have them, so.
Yeah, so we can go to the developer and provide recommendations, but from my understanding of Rochelle's comments is we just don't really want to see those kind of tools being used, but there isn't really a different option that would be available for something such as an upper lobby like this.
Well, I think it may be something that as a committee, if we have feelings that way, that maybe we should go forward and look into it, or the town should look into it, or whoever is responsible to do that, then report back saying that they have found something better, or they haven't, they don't find anything better. I mean, the thing is just not take the answer that they're giving us right at the beginning, right now. We feel that it's not the right thing, or it's a difficult thing for people, with disabilities to use. That's not fair to them either.
Yep. So I'm more than happy to speak with the developer and see what they're looking to install on this. We can get back to that on the second submission. Like I said,
I don't
sorry,
think
go ahead.
Ask about it.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. I just know any of the and anyone else on the committee can chime in on this. I don't think there's a lift that any of us are particularly a fan of. I'm pretty familiar with the majority of them out there. There might be something new that's come out recently that we can explore for sure. But then keep in mind as well, right? Like in terms of asking the developer to use the new shiny item, we don't have the authority to do that. We can recommend, more than happy to do that, but there's nothing stating that they would have to kind of follow through with that either.
Yeah, no, I just think it's something to look into. There's something, yeah.
Happy to do that. Yep. Good points and good questions. Anything else that people would like to discuss? Okay. Rochelle, it's back over to you.
Perfect. Okay, so if there are no further comments from the committee, I'll call the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, that carries. So that brings us to item 6.3. That is memorandum from Accessibility Advisor regarding site plan application ZBA-2017-06, submission number 1, and that's for 15356 Young Street. May I have a mover and a seconder to put the item on the table for discussion?
Matthew.
Thanks, Matthew. And a
Joanne.
second?
Joanne?
Thanks, Joanne. Thank you, Joanne. Okay. You want to take it away, Matt?
Yeah, thank you. This one was a little bit easier to regurgitate, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's take a look at the application. So this one's an interesting one. I don't know if you guys have had an opportunity to take a look in advance. I was kind of meddling before the committee meeting to see what I think would be the best way for you guys to envision this. So there's a couple of different levels for this. So we'll start off on the first slide. Okay, I think I know how I want to do this. So we'll start off over here. So firstly, you're taking a look at Yonge Street. This site plan indicates 5 different buildings. All we need to focus on, and I don't know why they put like a big emphasis on this piece over here, but we're really just focusing on building 1 over here. The other 2, 3, 4, and 5 that are indicated on this map are current buildings, and this is all across from Our Lady of Grace Church on Yonge Street. So really close to Yonge and Wellington area. None of these buildings are being touched in this development. So I just want to highlight that piece. Now, it's not complicated, but there's a lot of grades and levels to this one. So I'm actually going to skip over the first couple, and I'm going to jump over to the elevations just to give you guys a very quick idea of what we're kind of taking a look at. So what you can see over here from these exterior buildings is over here, we have that existing house that was indicated on the map. This is the roadway that leads over to the main part of the building. And then what you can see is obviously the residential part over here is grade with the road. And then we have a pretty steep elevation that drops down to wherever any of those patios and exterior paths that lead outside of the building on the other side go to. So I wanted to highlight that piece before we actually take a look at the internal map so you guys have an idea of why there might be some staircases. And so you can see where my mouse is hovering from the level area. That's why you'll see staircases that lead down and no ramps, right? Because the elevation drop over here is quite significant. And then there is a comment that I made over here from the lower parking areas to create ramps in order for people to be able to access this outdoor area. But I wanted to start off over there just so you guys have an idea of what the building looks like from the outside. So you understand the comments when we're looking at it. And so same thing, just from the opposite sides. Here you can see the bottom of the building and what I was mentioning, right? So over here, you can see you have that staircase dropping all the way down to just like this little area that we have over here on the opposite side of the building. So we will go back to the actual drawings themselves now that we have an idea of what this looks like, and we can discuss. Okay, so starting off on the main page, you will see from Yonge Street, we have our main entrance coming into the building. And one of the first things that you can comment on right off the bat is there's no real way for someone that's walking off the sidewalk over here on Yonge Street in order to access this building, right? Like if we go right in on it, it's basically roadway. You can see that there's the ramp over here that leads down into the actual parking lots. And then you have your main entrance. And so there isn't really anything indicated in terms of a crosswalk or an exterior path of travel for residents to be able to go across over here and get to that exterior path of travel that leads to Yonge Street. I think specifically in this area, it's very important, right? Like you kind of have that hub like area over there by the ACC right up the street. Obviously down south on Yonge and Wellington, it's a big intersection. So what I was mentioning in this comment was for them to ensure that there is an exterior path of travel that's added in over here to ensure that there's a crosswalk or something to at least let people get in and cross safely, especially considering that these cars are going to be coming over here in order to access that ramp in order to be able to park, right? So that was one of the first comments right off the bat that we think should be added in over here. Continuing off of that, you can see that we have garbage storage, like I already mentioned. You can see the ramp leading into the building. You have your regular entrance into the main lobby. The lobby is very basic. You can see they just have a couple of seats, no customer service, nothing special over here. And then the majority of the building is just suites from there. And then leading back out over here, you can see there's that terrace. And from when I was showing you those back pictures, you'll remember that this is elevated above the ground, right? So this is not level with this little setback that we can see over here. This is just a balcony that looks over this area. And then you can see there's this staircase that leads all the way back down. And I'll show you where you can get in from a quote unquote more accessible point of view, but we'll still have to comment on that piece. So just going to zoom right back out over here. This is just a more specific drawing, same thing, nothing different than we were just taking a look at. As you can see, it's basically the exact same. So we're going to continue on. Grades, as you saw, was very crazy. So let's take a look at this first piece over here. So this is the first parking level, and this is the first point of discussion for us to have. So the elevator lobby for people to be taking is located right over here. You can see there's the vestibule to enter in, and they've located the type A spot over here. Not the worst spot, I guess. It's better than the other site plan application that we looked at that had the spot significantly further away. But again, not the best spot. So I recommend for them to probably relocate the spot over here if possible. The only issue I have is I'm not sure if they're indicating right over here whether this is a support wall or if this is just a parking spot. So that'll be one of the things for consideration is to see whether or not we can add that in. And then same thing over here between the distances, that could be an alternative option for them to add that in as well. So we're asking for them to move this type A spot a little bit closer over to the actual vestibule leading into the elevator. Further over here, you can see off this parking level, it leads out and over to the staircase that we saw in that exterior drawing that kind of leads down to the terrace that's outside, but no ramps or anything. So I'll zoom in over here. No elevators, no lifts, nothing. It's basically just staircases that lead down over to the outdoor amenity. And so I asked that basically they add in a ramp if possible off of this grading. There should be enough space based on what I saw for them to be able to just, it might be a long ramp, right? But they should be able to add something in order for people to be able to access that outdoor amenity. Jumping over to the next parking area. Same issue that we had previously. You can see elevator lobby and vestibule is right over here. And then you have your two parking spots on the opposite side. So you can see we have our type A with its accessible aisle. You have your type B over here with its accessible aisle. And then they're on the opposite side over here. Now, granted, if they move these two spots over here, I don't know if that'll fit, one. And then two, this wouldn't probably be ideal, I don't think. I still think this is a little bit closer for them to be able to travel over. But at that point, it's pretty much the same on both sides, right? So we're going to see if the accessible spots are going to be able to fit over here right next to the vestibule. Otherwise, these spots where they're currently located, or even if we move them onto this side over here, are probably the closest paths of travel for them to be able to access the elevator. And then as you can see over here, leading back out, there's that staircase that leads further down. So from all the parking levels, you can see it's basically staircases, staircases, staircases that lead down into the outdoor area. And so we're requesting that a ramp be provided if possible. I'm curious to see how steep it is in terms of elevation back down there when the developer gets back to us for that piece. Okay. So now we're jumping into the actual suites. So like we normally do, I'll very quickly highlight all of them for each floor just to kind of give you guys a very quick overview. So you can see entering into the building, like we were mentioning earlier, basically bedrooms across the entire main floor, outdoor terrace over here. And you can see that there's a pathway level over here between the bike paths and everything that leads over to the staircase that leads back down over to the outdoor amenity. Same thing for the next floor, minus the terrace itself. We're just taking a look at basically bedrooms across the board, and then just the regular elevator staircases that lead out. There is the comment in there to ensure that emergency evacuation chairs are provided for all of these locations. I know I didn't mention it already, but there is the comment in there as well for the door operators to be provided for all the public entrances in order to ensure that people are able to get in. So those comments were all provided on there. And then the last one that I didn't mention when we were taking a look at the outdoor area over here is to just provide rest areas as long as it doesn't impede that 1500 millimeter exterior path of travel expectation that we have. So just continuing on with the drawings, same thing, bedrooms basically on each of the floors. And then it does not appear that they're providing anything on the rooftop. You can see there's just basically the mechanical equipment located on the very roof, but no outdoor terrace or anything based on the drawings that were provided. And then that leads us back over to what we were taking a look at the very beginning. And this is where I was mentioning, you can see the staircase is quite steep leading back down. But yeah, that was it for the comments that I had to provide. And so this is where I was hoping that when we were talking about that ramp from the outdoor area on the back of the building, from P2, you can see it doesn't look crazy elevated. So that's where I'm hoping that they're able to provide that ramp that leads down. So that way people are able to at least have some kind of path. Now, no other option for that other than using the parking level, unless the developer decided to add in another elevator over here for the terrace, which very unlikely for that to happen. But at least if they provide a ramp over here from P2, and then we have some kind of wayfinding signage indicating that there is a path in order to get out here, there is that option. So that was it for the comments that I had. And so I'm sure you guys have a couple of comments because this is an interesting application to say the least. So I'll pass it over to the committee and we can discuss, and just let me know where you want me to get back to when you're making your comments. Nothing? No way.
Is the bike rack that's in that picture you have in front, is that going to be in the way of anything, or is that good there?
It looked good from the drawings, so we can jump all the way back over here. And so that's where it's located, Matthew. You can see it's kind of
yeah, it's a space
into the wall over here. So I didn't have any concerns. The visitor bike is over here, and you can see the path is quite wide over here between the landscaping and the building itself.
Okay. That's all my questions.
Good question. Thank you. Okay, well, that was significantly easier than I expected. So back to you, Rochelle.
Okay, so if there are no further questions from the committee. Sorry, did someone say something? No, okay. I thought I heard someone saying something. All right, no further comments then. I'll call the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Thank you. Any opposed? Okay, that carries. So we're on to item 6.4, memorandum from accessibility advisor regarding site plan application SP-2021-01. This is submission 2 for 45 Eric T. Smith Way. May I have a mover and a seconder to put the item on the floor for discussion?
Haley.
Matthew.
Thanks, Haley. And a second? Thanks, Matthew. Perfect. Thank you. All right, Matt, take it away.
I just hear Haley's voice for the first time today. Holy, she's there. And I can see Max joined us. So Max, welcome. So let's take a look at SP 2021-01. We have actually taken a look at the site plan application in the past. So this one will be very quick because I've already heard back from the developer on the comment that I've made over here. So let's go ahead and jump over to the application itself. This should look familiar to everybody. It's basically industrial units located over here on Eric T. Smith Way. And so that's across from the 404 Plaza area. So we have looked at this before. We had no issues with the number of accessible parking spots, the exterior path of travel, no issues in that. We've already commented on the emergency chairs for the staircases. We made comments on the curb depressions for the access aisles, crosswalk. All of that's been addressed. So that was good when I heard back from the developer. One of the other comments that came from the committee was the addition of accessible spots over here for Unit 6 and Unit 7. As you can see, we have a number of spots over here at the top of Unit 1, and then you have those additional pieces over here for Unit 14 and 15. So obviously from Unit 8 to 21, we have a good amount of accessible spots that service this. Along these diagonal spots, the developer said that the grading is too high for the barrier-free parking. So they had no issues adding the barrier-free parking, but they recommended that we do not add barrier-free parking in down over here. And I did take a look at their comments. The grade is quite steep over here from when I was looking at it a couple months back, since we haven't met since June. But they won't be able to add any other barrier-free parking over here, because if anyone's coming out of their car that's using wheelchairs or any kind of mobility device, it would definitely be a rolling hazard into the walls or onto the roadway over here. And so I'm okay based on that we keep it as is over here, where we have the safest spots for people to be able to access. And I don't think it's too unreasonable in that sense, where because the grading is no good here, for people to then just be able to travel from over here down to Unit 7. At least we have the majority of the spots between the farthest units spread out over here. And so I didn't have any other comments for the application. They responded to that one comment that we had over here for the additional spots. And so, like I said, very quick. Any questions, concerns, or anything you guys want to discuss as a committee? No special questions, Matthew? Come on, man.
I'm trying to think of one, but
that's all right. Okay. If there's nothing, like I said, we've taken a look at this one, so I figured there wasn't going to be any concerns from the committee on this piece. So, Rochelle, it's back over to you.
Perfect. All right, no further comments or questions then. So I'll call the vote. All in favor?
aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that carries. All right, that brings us to
Matthew's
6 point.
for that.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Joanne.
I said Matthew's getting his in order, that's why.
Yeah.
All right, so 6.5 then is next. So that's the memorandum from Accessibility Advisor regarding site plan application SPM 2021-01. This is submission number 2 as well. And this is for 15520 Young Street. Can I get a mover and a seconder to bring the item on the floor for discussion?
Joanne will
Haley.
move.
I heard a bunch, but I heard Haley's voice, so thanks, Haley. And a second?
Well, I said Joanne said, I said my first, but anyway, it doesn't matter.
Okay, perfect. Thanks, Joanne. I'll use you for the second. All right, that's good. You can take it away then, Matt.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So again, we've taken a look at this one. This is actually the one where, from what you guys would remember, they were altering a little bit of the parking space over here, and they were working on the exterior path of travel. The building itself is already current. It's a seniors residential building. Nothing was being altered in there. All that was being updated was the exterior side of the building, from what you guys would remember. So we had no comments for the building itself, but based on our previous comments, I will let you know what the developer has agreed to do. And so one of the comments that we had when we were originally taking a look at this, you can tell from the barrier-free parking and just the parking in general, this is almost like your typical parking spot, no exterior path of travel leading to the front entrance. As you can see, just retaining walls over here, right? So from the barrier-free parking, and then even from your regular parking, there's a little bit of a boulevard over here. And so one of the issues that we were previously facing was they were adding in this designated drop-off area. And so the committee was happy with the drop-off area. One of the comments I made was the issue was originally the depressed curb ended over here where my mouse is highlighting. And so any of the individuals that would be walking from the barrier-free path of travel trying to enter into the exterior path concrete walk over here wouldn't be able to if a car was in the lay-by dropping somebody off. And so they've gone ahead and extended the depressed curb. You can see along this gray area right over to the retaining wall. And so even if somebody is over here in the lay-by, anyone coming in from the barrier-free parking spots are able to go ahead across the depressed curb over here into the main entry into the building. So that was a good piece that was added in over here. Towards the back of the building, when we were originally taking a look at what they were doing over here leading into the outdoor amenity, there was a couple of issues with the ramp. And so they addressed the actual platforms on both the top and the bottom, as well as in the middle over here, and are fixing the grade to meet the AODA requirements. And so it was too steep previously. They have adjusted the grading to meet the requirements. And so now the ramp is compliant as well. Now, the only other comment that I had for them afterwards, and they're not technically doing any renovations, so I thought I'd kind of slip this in for the committee and see whether or not it would work. But I requested that a ramp be added in over here as well on the opposite side. So again, this isn't one of the areas they're really focusing on. They're building over here and they're retrograding over here with the lay-by, but I figured, what are they going to say? No, like, so might as well ask, right? So I added that piece in over here. I will show you guys the other drawings, but no comments really on them because they're not doing anything over here. So what you guys would have recognized previously along the windows, they would have added in that they're adding in the new windows and that they're working on the exterior path, but nothing for us to really comment on specifically on the indoor of the building, just because they're not doing anything in terms of renovations. So that would be what all of these drawings are in your packages. But no comments would be necessary because they're not doing anything over there and they're not actually doing any of the construction work in there. So I'll flip back over to the main page where we have the exterior. And that was it for my comments. Like I said, we're hoping to indicate over here, they had no issues with any of the previous comments from the committee and they made all the adjustments requested. So that was good to see. So I'll pass it back over to the committee and see if you guys have any other questions about the site plan or anything else you guys would like to talk about or see added in. Crickets, okay. And one of the things I wanted to mention as well, and we'll talk about it when we reach to the accessibility plan. I know Joanne had that great idea before we kind of went for our summer recess about having those letters sent over to developers. Or even considering, I believe Haley and I were talking throughout the summertime as well about using it for businesses. We can discuss that when we get in there. But I'll be showing that letter to you guys this month so we can start sending it out to applicants like this, where we have those kind of requests for additions and they don't have any issues with any of the requests that we have. So this would be a good example of a developer that was easy for us to work with. But based on that, Rochelle, it doesn't look like anyone had any comments. So back over to you.
Could I just ask that a copy of that letter be sent to me, please?
Oh yeah, everyone will receive it, Joanne.
Okay, thanks.
No problem.
Okay, so if there are no further comments on this, I'll call the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Any opposed? Okay, that carries. So we move now on to item 6.6, memorandum from Accessibility Advisor regarding site plan application OPA 2020-05, ZBA 2020-05, and SP 2020-04, submission number 2. And this is for 1675 St. John's Side Road. May I have a mover and a seconder to bring the item on the floor for discussion?
Matthew.
You and a second. Thanks, Max. All right, perfect. And Matt, you can take it away.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Okay, so this one will take a little bit longer for us to review, but nothing too crazy, but there's a couple of buildings for us to actually discuss and go over. So let's do it. All right, so we have three main areas that we're going to be focusing on. So firstly, this is on the intersection of Leslie and St. John's area. And so you can see this is the intersection right over here that they're going to be developing in. There are three main buildings and a gas station, gas bar is what they're calling it, that are going to be added in over here. So let's go ahead and just take a very quick high level view of the map itself. So you can see over here, further along St. John's Side Road, they have a proposed warehouse. It's just basically a big empty box that's being proposed with a couple of units. We'll get into the actual barrier-free parking for all of these momentarily, but I'll just give you guys a quick review. So you can see that over along the side over here, parking located over here in the very tip corner, which we will address. And then you have further barrier-free parking on the left side of the building as well. In the back, they have additional just parking, kind of like overflow area that's available as well for that warehouse. Gas station is going to be located directly on St. John's and Leslie Street over here. Again, we do have a couple of comments regarding the barrier-free parking. And then lastly, what we'll be taking a look at over here is called Building 2 and Building 3. And as you can see for Building 3, we have a proposed retail building that's going to be added in over here, where you have some barrier-free parking along the east side of the building and the south side of the building that we will address. And then finally, they have a proposed office on Building 2, which also has its own barrier-free parking. Now, it's an interesting setup because everything's pretty far from one another. And you can see based on the map, quite a bit of elevation gains and changes over here between all the buildings. So let's get into it. We're going to start off with the first building. So let me just zoom out over here momentarily. And we'll jump right into it. Okay, so for building 1, and I'm just jumping into this one just because it's a little bit more detailed in terms of the actual barrier-free parking. So we're going to start with the actual warehouse itself. No issues with the number of barrier-free parking spots for this building. One of the things that I did comment on, I was happy with the barrier-free parking over here. Services a bunch of the entries on the west side of the building, no problem with that. What I did request for is instead of having all the barrier-free parking on this area subdued to the east corner, I requested that these two stay as is where they are. And actually that this crosswalk and these barrier-free parking spots get located over here towards the center. So that way we have barrier-free parking on the east side of the building. We have barrier-free parking on the west side of the building servicing these entrances. And then as long as these two spots get moved, including the crosswalk, over to the middle, we have, I think, a good distribution of the barrier-free parking for the warehouse being proposed over here. Exterior path of travel located entirely around the building, so no comments or concerns with that. In terms of an exterior path leading onto the roadway, you guys see what I see. There's nothing indicating that there's anything kind of coming in from St. John's Side Road. Any of the exterior paths of travel are all just around the main building. So this looks like it's being proposed as a driving location, which you kind of see on a couple of the different site maps that we see here. But like I said, exterior path leads around the entire area of the building. Jumping over on this slide to the gas station, we have been provided one barrier-free parking that serves the gas station and the drive-in. So over here, you have your drive-in with a little restaurant attached. They usually have like a Tim Hortons or something attached over there. So they do have one barrier-free parking spot addressing this over here for this small lot, but they have none located over here for the entrance going into the gas station itself. And so one of the comments indicated was for them to ensure that there is at least two spots indicated over here. So that way the gas station is being serviced and anything that's being added in over here for the drive-in also has barrier-free parking servicing it. Over here, you can see that they have provided from the streetway over here. So there must be some kind of path because you can see there is an exterior path of travel with a crosswalk that leads between all of these areas. Now, unless I'm that blind, which I don't think I am, I don't see anything, and you guys can probably agree with me on this. I don't see anything indicated unless they're saying this small strip is a sidewalk. I'm not seeing anything else. but I can look into that with a little bit more detail because you can see there's something mixed in between all of these lines. So a little bit difficult to read, but you can see that there is some kind of path being created towards St. John's Side Road over there. So there very well might be something available for people to travel across. So I'll have to identify that and go through with it. Now we're going to jump over to building 2 and 3, and this is just going slow, so bear with me, guys. There we go. Okay, so now taking a look at the office building and the retail building. One of the comments that was provided, see, yeah, this drawing, you can see it very clearly, the municipal sidewalk. And so that's what was connecting over there on the St. John's area to the gas station. So there is something that's going to be implemented. It just wasn't well drawn out on the previous one. So for this one over here for the retail building, the only comment and concern I had, and maybe you guys can correct me if you disagree with me on this one. I asked for them to move the barrier-free parking spots, the 3 spots over here on the south side of the building to the east side of the building. I think it just makes more sense. You can see all the entrances for the retail building is on the east side of the path. So put the barrier-free parking spots all along the east side rather than the south side. I can see that there is kind of like a front yard setup over here. And so I'm assuming that's what that's meant for. But I figure that if it's over here, it's going to service it a little bit better, or we can request, and this is where I want your guys' opinion on, we can split these up, but developers don't like doing that because then you're going to have to create additional access aisles, right? So I'm trying to work a little bit here with them, but again, I want to hear you guys' opinion on this. So maybe you guys can chime in on that. What do you guys think? Do we just have all the spots moved over here? Would you like to request 1 spot here and then 2 moved over here? What are you guys thinking?
Matt, go ahead, Max.
I would say ask them to move this bars up to the other end of the parking lot.
So you're requesting all 3 get moved here instead of to the east side of the building, Max?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's Max's opinion. What do you guys think? I know John was going to chime in on that piece too, I think.
Yeah, they might split this building east and west sides of it, right? So towards the west side, that could be a separate store.
Oh yeah, these are. So you can see that there is the stores over here. There's just, so there's just no parking spots, anything over here. So that's what I was saying. Do we want to split, add in a spot over here on this side and then the remaining go over here? Or do you want to just move all 3 over here? Like, how do you guys want to see this built in? And so Max was mentioning all 3 spots going over here for the, this is Leslie Street side. That's what his vote was for.
I agree with Max.
Okay, so we've got 2 for that. So we've got John and Max that are interested in moving it over here where my mouse is hovering on the Leslie side.
That makes sense.
Okay, Matthew's good with that.
I'm fine with that as well. And I don't mind them all being 3 together either. I think that's all right. If that's the preference for the developer anyway.
We don't have to do it for the developer. I just try to make it easier for them in the sense where like you lose parking spots for everybody in that sense, right? Because as soon as you start splitting up the barrier-free parking, then additional access aisles get added in. So that's the only reason I mentioned that. So just trying to work with them on that.
I think it's fine. I mean, I don't have any issues with Max's plan either. I think that's perfectly reasonable.
Okay, and then the only other people were Joanne and Haley. What do you guys think?
I would be interested if whichever seems to be the best solution at that site. If 3 together is the best solution or if the split's the best solution. I know it's difficult to think that way, but I just, I guess I can't envision the site finish.
So To answer your, so I think we're okay with moving them all together as a group because the side that we were discussing, Joanne, if you don't have the drawings in front of you, already do have some
Yep.
barrier-free parking
Right.
as well. So that's why we were mentioning that. So I think we'll be okay in that sense.
Yeah, okay, that side, yeah.
Yep. And then Haley, are you okay with that plan too?
Yep.
Perfect. Okay, so I will adjust my comment to the developer. Instead of keeping things on this side over here, we will move them over to the number 7 location, closer to the municipal sidewalk on Leslie Street, providing some parking for the west side of the retail building. Cool. Okay, and then this is the final building. As you can see, they do have some bike spots off of the exterior path of travel. Crosswalk and depressed curbs are provided in order to get over to the office building. And then they have their associated barrier-free parking over here. No issues with this one. It's closest entry right into the office. So no problems in that sense. And this is submission 2. So in the previous ones, we already mentioned things such as evacuation chairs, anything along those lines, door operators, all of those comments were made on the previous slides. So you won't see that on the comments that I've made for submission 2.
No elevator.
No elevator on this one, correct. That's indicated on these drawings.
Years ago by the, what used to be the Nino Diversa Bakery, one of the
Yep.
buildings back there, we had a request to put an elevator and the builder actually did it, so.
I will put that in. That's not a problem.
I'm not sure what the purpose of the office building, whether it's gonna be medical, dental. Gives them an opportunity to increase their rents too.
No problem. Add in that comment. Thank you, John.
And the officer
Sorry, Max, one more time. Was this in regards to the office building or what were you asking about for the elevator?
I agree.
Oh, okay. Yep, no problem. Comments added in. Thank you. Okay. Continuing on, this is just a zoomed in version on the gas station that we were speaking about earlier. And so we made the comments about the additional barrier-free parking being added in over there. And then from here, you can see that we're just taking basically a quick snapshot at the various buildings. So no extensive detail. We're not going to spend any time over here. This is just, we'll jump over to the elevation drawings. And so you can see this is the north side and west side of the industrial building that we were taking a look at earlier. This is the back side of it and the east side on the bottom over here where my mouse is hovering. And then now we're taking a look at the offices and the retail in the next couple elevation drawings. And that was it for that one. So any other comments? Those were some good ones that we added in over there for the barrier-free parking and the elevator. Anything else that you guys would like to see?
I don't want to comment particularly on this exact thing that we were just doing, but I don't know if there's something that we can think about with parking, for people that have issues in cars and stuff like that. I noticed that when I haven't been back driving very long, and I noticed that when I did go back, I guess I didn't particularly notice it before, but most of the ramps are at the driver's door side that go up out of the handicap spot. And I was thinking to myself, I had to be driven quite a bit, and so consequently, I was on the other side of the car. And I was just thinking, I wonder how many people who have some challenges, I wonder how many are driven as to the amount of people that drive on their own. And I just wondered if it's something we could think about, because that means the person has to get out of the passenger side of the car, go around the back of the car if they can't manage the curb, and walk around the whole car and up the side of the ramp on the other side. So I just was thinking, as we were talking about the ramps and stuff, I was just thinking that's maybe something in the future that we should think about when they're placing ramps. Whether we have two little elevations going up on either side of the car in the handicap parking. That way, also, if you put another one beside it, then you'd have two more there. But it's just something that I've really particularly noticed because of myself, what's happened. I just think it's something maybe we should think about.
Yeah, I think you're probably noticing that on some of the older parking lots. For the new ones, any curb depression or ramp that you would see for parking will always be associated with the access aisle. So that 1.5 meter space is provided between barrier-free parking. And so consequently, depending on which parking spot you go into, because they're shared between parking spots and the way you park, right, depending on if someone reverses or pulls in, we'll never be able to control that because there's too many variables in that sense. But that being said, you should be able to always have access to it as a passenger or a driver, depending on how you pull into the parking spot, because you have an access aisle available for you. So any of the new designs that we're doing, you won't run into that issue, Joanne. It's probably the old ones where people didn't have access aisles and they just kind of put the ramp wherever they chose to.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So we. Yep.
Forward, because I was at the CIBC at Bayview and Wellington, and that's where I particularly noticed it. And I was thinking to myself, I should have backed in maybe, but then I never noticed it before because I always just went in, and a lot of times if I just parked in the spot, I don't use it. But I had to do it that day, and I had to do it somewhere else, and I particularly noticed that. So anyway, I just thought I'd pass it on. So.
Yep. Thanks, Joanne. Any other comments from the committee?
No, I'm good.
Great. So, Madam Chair, it's back over to you.
Okay. All right. If there's no further comments, I'll call the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you. Any opposed? All right, that carries. So we are at item 6.7, memorandum accessibility advisor regarding site plan application SP 2018-05. This is submission number 4 for 1623 Wellington Street East. May I have a mover and a seconder to put the item on the floor for discussion?
Matthew.
John.
The second?
John.
Thanks, John. All right. All right, that's perfect. All right, Matt, if you want to take the lead on this.
Will do. I'm actually going to jump back. Matthew, remember your comment you were mentioning about the trees and the special like blocks and stuff that they positioned for them? I'm wondering whether or not that's something that we can look into. And I'm putting this on the table before I forget because it just popped into my head because that's just how my brain works sometimes. I'm wondering if that's something we can add into the Town of Aurora guidelines, the design standards that we're working on, as something that we look into for landscaping. So anyway, just wanted to throw that out there and then we can discuss about that afterwards, Matthew. But that might be something that we can consider as an option when we speak to Gary, whether or not that's something that we can envision as just being added into those standards if it works, right? So just food for thought. Okay. So SP 2018-05, this is submission number 4. So this is going to be easy peasy. And this is how we're going to end our site plans, which is going to be great because this is a lot of site plans that we've taken a look at. And that's what happens after a 2-month break. So, okay, let's do this. So we have, it's only one site plan that we're taking a look at over here. And we have a couple of current developments and future phases. So let me kind of guide you guys through that piece. So on this specific one, they're currently focusing on A1 and A2, where we have a couple of units. And then there's going to be future buildings over here for C, D, and B. Don't ask me about the order, but that's how we're going to dictate our comments over here. So we've looked at this a couple of times. The paths of travel, crosswalks from the majority of the areas are pretty well positioned. The only comments that I had for this site plan application, so I'm going to zoom over to the left side over here for the current proposal, is just to ensure that the cafe chairs that were added in on the submission to ensure that there is allocated accessibility spots for all of those cafe spots. And then the other piece that I was mentioning as well is for A1 building between the barrier-free parking for some kind of crosswalk to be developed. It might be wide between these two boulevards, but I think it should be added in. As you can see between A2 from the barrier-free parking spots, there is crosswalks that have been indicated for these two units. So request for basically the 4 that are going to be going in front of A1 to have the exact same treatment. Again, might be a wider one, or if they decide to put it over here on this boulevard, it would be exactly the same. But I would imagine that they do it somewhere over here next to the actual curb depression. So that was one of the comments that was added in for that piece. Additionally, jumping over to the opposite side. And so firstly, I'll mention that we've looked at this a couple times, but they've added in barrier-free parking for each of the units, which is good. So you can see we have 4 units over here for A1. We've got 6 spots allocated over here for A2. Going over to the future developments, we've got barrier-free parking situated for building B, building C over here, and then lastly over here for building C. Sorry, this was C, this one was D, and this one was B. I apologize for that piece. But you can see that there is parking situated for all of these spots. And so we added in as well that crosswalks be added in for the parking spots leading in over here. They might not for over here because the barrier-free parking is connected directly to the exterior path of travel for building C. But for building D and for C, I think they should do the exact same thing they were doing on the opposite side. And they just did it because these are future developments. But I wanted to indicate that in there regardless, that crosswalks be added in for all of the buildings over here. And so that was all the comments I had for this specific site plan application. We've looked at this a couple times and we're pretty happy with all the paths and stuff. It's a very simple application. It's literally a parking lot and just buildings in a square formation. So there isn't really much to comment on. But yeah, otherwise I will pass it back over to you guys and see if there's anything else you'd like to see on this one.
They divided up their bike parking spots. From the last one to this one, they've moved them. They've actually spread them out now.
Yeah, so we have an assortment of staff members that take a look at this. So obviously our committee looks from like an accessibility perspective, and then we have some traffic analysts and so on that also take a look and make comments on the various pieces in there as well. So
this is good.
Yep.
Makes sense.
And so you'll like anytime you see a couple of those other changes and stuff between site plan applications, it's because we usually have about 5, depending on the site, we usually have 5 to 10 different staff members looking at each of these applications for various roles.
No, I just noticed that.
Yep.
Is there any way that they can connect I guess the grading can't be done because it's kind of steep, to Wellington direct from the A1 building?
You're talking right over here?
Yeah.
Let's zoom in. So there might be an option here. Like you said, with the grading, it might not be, but I can speak to the developer and see whether or not that's an option. They already have a platform built over here. So maybe they do have the room over here. It's like technically a 5% grade passes. So there might be the option to add that in over here for Wellington Street and A1.
Yeah, but you can also like do it diagonally, which means you can do it at like 2.5 instead. So, yeah.
I got it. Yep. Good question.
And is there any?
Matt, if you scroll a little south of that.
Yep.
Scroll down a bit. See where it says Farm Boy seasonal merchandising area. Does that interfere with the your thought of moving the accessible parking spots?
So I think when Superstore has like they have like the outdoor stuff over here. So it won't affect the barrier-free parking because for us, it's on the opposite side of where they would do the merchandising. And then again, we would have that crosswalk built in on this opposite side. So I had no concerns with the merchandising area being used on this side of the parking lot. It shouldn't affect any of our spots.
Yeah, I just want to be sure.
Yep. Great question.
I can't find anything else to ask.
Okay. So that looks like that's good. So Rochelle, it's back over to you.
All right, thanks. All right, if there are no further comments on this, I'll call the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? No opposed? Okay, that carries.
So what do we
That
do if
brings us
somebody
to item.
opposes?
I don't know.
Fight.
Carry on, sorry.
Long discussion.
Yeah.
All right, so item 6.8 is where we are at now. The roundtable discussion regarding the Town of Aurora Accessibility Plan 2018 to 2024. May I have a mover and a seconder to put the item on the floor?
Joanne, I'll move it.
Thanks, Joanne, and a second. Can I get a second?
Matthew.
Yeah, it's John. I was waiting for a Haley, but it's John. Go ahead.
Okay, all right, thanks, John. All right, so Matt, do you want to begin leading us on this?
Okay. We're in the home stretch, guys. We made it past the site plan applications. All righty. So we do have a number of items to discuss. There's no big updates in terms of the operational and the capital budget. I will leave that for October because we have just a number of items to talk about today, and I don't want to drag you guys over 9 o'clock and lose you. So we'll stick to the items, but I've got 7 different things I want to discuss with you guys today. So hopefully we catch that all in between 9 o'clock. So first thing that we're going to discuss today is actually a project that Haley was mentioning as a part of the accessibility plan back before COVID hit. And that was kind of doing a video project with the advisory committee as a whole and kind of discussing a number of different topics. And so now that we've kind of gotten to the point where vaccinations are starting to come through the community, we have our passports coming in. And so people are getting a little bit more comfortable, I think, with coming out and associating with the community. Buildings are starting to open up. Haley and I were discussing, we think it's viable to start this project back up now that we've kind of, I don't want to say we have the reins on COVID because it's not that case at all, but at least we can start proceeding with some in-person stuff more regularly. So Haley and I went ahead and met with our corporate communications team earlier in August, and we are in the clear to start working with that team to start developing a couple of videos. And so wanted to quickly just kind of give you what our thoughts were. And then obviously we want the input of the committee on what they're thinking would be great additions or anything else they'd like to kind of see added in here. So for simplicity's sake, we were thinking of basically doing almost a video a quarter or 3 videos a year, essentially. And these can compose of a variety of things. And so for year 1, which would start as of Q4 this year, we would launch it. We were thinking of doing a video around what is a disability or what is accessibility to kind of get connected with the community, get council and our CAO's office involved, kind of talking about what the town of Aurora's vision is moving forward, why it's important for our community, why we have these meetings towards site plan applications and so on. And so we were thinking that would be a good way to kind of kickstart this idea and get involvement from council level and the executive leadership level on the specific topic for the AAC. From there, Haley's vision for this was to start looking at challenge options. And so what that means is, how do we put the shoes on the public and our council members to feel what it's like to be a person with a disability? And one of the things that we were definitely talking about is some kind of disclaimer on this, because as everyone knows, is people are very sensitive, and we know we're not going to touch up on every disability in these videos and whatnot, right? So we would make that a punctuation point in there, being like, we are not covering all disabilities in this video, but we wanted to highlight and kind of show council and the public what's important about accessibility. Like Councillor Gartner was mentioning on our first site application, right? Like, I didn't think about why exterior passive travel were so important as ports to the main street, right? And so we want to start kind of communicating that out to the staff members, public and council through videos in that second submission. And so a couple of things like taking a wheelchair out in the wintertime, right? If things aren't plowed appropriately, can you get to the facility? Things such as reading with dyslexia. There's a bunch of softwares that we can use, right? So that was a kind of an idea for the second piece. And then from there, we're kind of pretty much open. So one of Haley's suggestions for the third video for this year's term, because we will only probably get 3 videos in before your term ends as an accessibility advisory committee. I think that's up in May or June, actually, of 2022. So we don't have that much time. But that final video would be an opportunity maybe for us to kind of connect with the public, ask them questions. What do you guys want to see in the community? What do you want to see from the Accessibility Advisory Committee? And so that was, and again, this is Haley's vision. So Haley, you're more than welcome to chime in and correct me if I misspoke about any of these pieces. But I believe that's the vision that she had for this video project. And then obviously, once the next committee comes in at the end of 2022, this is, I think, a great initiative that we can continue on, and we can continue developing and building videos and whatnot for an opportunity for the committee not to just be a YouTube cast once a month, but a new way to connect to people as to what we want to see happening and where we would like to go. And so I'll let Haley chime in first to see if she has anything she wants to add on to what I was mentioning there. And then obviously we want to hear from the rest of the committee on what they think would be great to see too. So Haley, I'm just passing it over to you.
Yeah, I think my main thing with these videos was bringing awareness of what a disability and what is accessibility, and helping individuals to understand what that may or may not be for different people. I think I found, so over the summer, I started my project of going into different businesses and doing some reviews of accessibility and providing some feedback in what I can offer, from, for example, menus to, placement of things to customer service. And I really found, even just posting on Facebook, that people's necessarily views of what a disability is quite narrow. And what accessibility
100%.
is very narrow. They have their ideas of what it is, and that's what it is. And it often involves a whole lot more than that. So I thought it was important to be, connecting with the community so that they could understand a little bit more about challenges people may face.
Yeah. And just tagging off of you, Haley, those are excellent points. That happens not even on the public level, but even the staff level, right? So videos about what we already have in Aurora, right? So like, I'll give you a very quick example. I was working with our operations and roads teams on the audible pedestrian signals. And the example they kept using are wheelchair users. And that's great. Like, wheelchair users will take advantage of audible pedestrian signals if they need a longer time to cross, but those are for people with visual impairments, right? So they're able to know when to cross safely and whatnot, right? So I agree that this would be an opportunity to kind of showcase what we have as well, what they're meant for, and just kind of broaden people's view on what accessibility is and how many people can be affected from a whole variety of spectrums.
This is a really good idea. Would this be something that we could show like a movie in the park?
That's an intriguing question.
Like
Definitely something. Go ahead, Max.
Like a 30 second preview.
So for those of you that didn't catch what Max was mentioning, he was mentioning almost like those commercials you get before movies, for like the movies in the park. Whether or not those videos could be potentially showcased in there, right? So like if we have like kind of like a Town of Aurora segment before a movie plays, like if there's any information or anything, that might be an option. So I don't know is the short answer to that, Max, but I work with Shelly very regularly on events and I don't see her having issues with that. We would just have to kind of plan out how we want that to display, right? So we can have that conversation with her for sure.
I have a question.
Yep.
Is this, and apologies if you mentioned this in your intro, Matt, I don't know. are these films to be sort of posted on our website or on the town site, or are we distributing them somehow? Is there some platform we already have in mind to showing them, or has that not been planned yet?
So we haven't planned that yet. I think our media platforms as a municipality are pretty obvious and limited, right? Like we really have Instagram, Facebook, and the website essentially. And then obviously we have council committee members that can distribute through their own platforms and whatnot. So that's where we will for sure be hosting it. But I'm open to hearing the committee if you guys have something else that you have in mind where we can kind of go with this. But in terms of a corporation, those are the platforms that we have access to as staff members to post those up. So it would be like the website or social media platforms to use. Yeah, so Max was mentioning interviewing people with different disabilities. That would be very similar to what we kind of saw. So when Max was trying to work with you guys about the Meet the Accessibility Advisory Committee, so Newmarket has something along those lines where they have a couple of their members interviewed. But I think I know where you're going with this, Max. You could have obviously the AAC interviewed on that piece, and then you could have just public members interviewed for that piece as well, right? To kind of help spread awareness. Yeah, so that's a great idea. I wrote that down. It's not a problem.
What about those media boards that we see like at the Stronach Center, all those? I know we probably get income from that as advertising, but is there any way that we can kind of push into that area? Or
if you don't ask, you don't know. So we can ask John and see if we can. John Furman is the gentleman that deals with all those bulletin boards and stuff within all of our facilities. I think go ahead, John.
Even just like a snippet, one page, almost like a PowerPoint, outlining areas of opportunities.
Yeah, I don't think he'd have any problems. Like, there's obviously paid times that he wouldn't be able to give to us, but I don't imagine that he's got every minute booked. Who knows? Maybe I'm completely wrong and it is all booked up, right? But if there's space in it, I don't see that they'd have any issue sharing that with the committees and the municipal staff members. It's a good idea. All great ideas so far, guys. So those are really helpful. Anything else?
It's Joanne here.
Yep.
I have a sort of a different vision in a sense, having worked with so many challenged individuals over the years. There are a lot of people that are in between. A lot of people that go through sections and sufferings that aren't necessarily challenged as far as lifetime challenges. And there's all different sorts of things. And I just wondered if maybe we could even take people of varying disabilities and interview them just silently without an interviewer interviewing them, and just ask them what they look forward to in their life and how things have gone for them. There's many people with many degrees of having been with the Voices of Joy for so long. We've got physically challenged as well as intellectually challenged. And people we've got one man that's in his 80s and he's totally blind, and different things. And I think it'd be nice to take a variation of people. We have another young man that's in a wheelchair and very challenged. And, just to take them and ask them different things. I mean, not just in the choir, not just saying in our choir, but in the community. And, just have sort of a nice, let them have a little talk, sort of thing. I mean, we would, of course, be viewing it and overseeing it, and everything like that, or whoever was running it would be doing that. But I just think it would be sort of nice to their expectations be known. There's lots of people who, whether it's the Able Network, Community Living, or whatever, that would be able to point out somebody that might be very good to have on there.
Yep.
So that's just something I think about.
Completely agree. And so when we get to that point in the video process, and even like to your point, Joanne, if they don't even want to be in the video and we're just doing interview options, just kind of gather information, we'll have all of the committee involved in this, right? So when we're getting to that point, I'll be reaching out to all of you to help in that case, to kind of find who do we want to interview. That gives an opportunity for you to reach out to all of your networks. Obviously, we'll use ours as well to kind of reach out to the public as a whole. And then, yeah, anyone that's game to chat with us, we're happy to speak to them, right? So we can definitely use that.
Yeah. And another set of people that have gone through a tremendous amount when they have challenged individuals are the parents. And, you know, what the life offered them in the community by, you know, supplying different things and giving different things to them, and how it made their life better and stuff like that. You know, it's amazing what you run into throughout all of that, you know.
Yep, completely agree. And we will have access to that too, even through like our programs and stuff, through like aquatics, community services, everything too.
Wherever.
Definitely.
Yep.
Okay, for the sake of time, because that was item 1 of 7 on this part, I'll quickly ask, anyone else have anything else you'd like to add quickly? Otherwise, you guys can email me if any additional items. We can obviously, and we'll keep working on this. It's not like everything's set in stone here, right? So this is just kind of the start for this.
Yeah, if anyone has, I know Matt and I are meeting again with corporate communications on September 28th. So 28th, I think it is.
I don't remember off the top of my head, but it's somewhere around there.
Yeah, so if anyone gets information to either Matt or I beforehand, we could always bring it up to you at that point.
Are you meaning people that would be interesting to interview, or are you meaning other things?
We're just meeting about the first phase of starting to develop this video. So no, we wouldn't be meeting anyone. Yeah, we're just kind of putting things together with the Town of Roar staff members.
Okay, thanks.
Yep. Okay, we're gonna chug along here. So the next item I had on here was in regards to the Meet the Accessibility Advisory Committee that Max was working on in the summertime period. So we did have a couple of members, less than more, that did reach out indicating that they want to have their biography and like photo and stuff up on the website. I'm just going to ask in the committee, because we weren't getting email responses, is this something we want to do? So there are other committees that have like a Meet the AAC where they kind of have like information and a little bit of pictures about you guys. I'm okay going either way, right? This is something for the committee. Is that something you guys are interested in, or do you guys want to keep it as status quo where it's just your names up on there and then they have an opportunity to view you guys through YouTube? It's up to you guys, but let me know if we want to scrap this or finish it off.
I like the idea. I just didn't have time to write it because I was in college. So
come on, Matthew. I don't want to hear it.
Me too. I couldn't find a good picture.
You got told off. No, I think it's a good idea. It's just I hope that what's laid out or what's said is laid out in such a way that it's meaningful to the town getting something out of it. If it isn't meaningful to that, you know, it's something we're going to have to look at too. But you know, I just whatever. I don't know. I just my thinking on it anyway. So yeah.
So we've got Joanne. That's good. I know Max, you did your part. Rochelle, Matthew was mentioning he was busy in school. Haley and John, what do you guys think? Are you interested in doing this, or are we going to leave it as is?
I thought I had sent my stuff. If it didn't send, I don't know.
This is like school where I'm calling everyone out for their homework here, guys. Like, where is it?
Yeah.
The principal speaking up. Behave.
Okay. So
I just need to find a good picture.
All right, I'll even come take a picture of you, John. Don't worry, we'll get that done. So okay, so from that, I'm hearing that everyone's okay and like we're going ahead with it. So in the next month, if everyone can get those over to me, if you guys need help taking a picture, we can do that as a town as well. So let us know. But Max did put in a decent amount of effort into this, right? So I don't want his work to just kind of go off to the side. So let's aim to have this up and ready for our next meeting. So that gives everybody a month's time to send in. For those of you that have done it already, you're done. For those of you that were busy with whatever was keeping you busy, I won't make any more jokes. Let's get that information over so that way we can get that stuff posted and we can move ahead with this piece. I think it's a nice piece for the community to see when they're coming into the committee board and kind of getting to know you guys. So I think that would be nice to see there. Okay. Important piece. So I was promising you guys for this month, and I will deliver the Town of Aurora updated accessibility plan. So this will be for 2022 to 2026. So the plan is completely written. I will send it over to you guys next week so you guys can go through it. You can red pen it all you want, and we can start working on it. In terms of additional homework for you guys, so a part of what the committee needs to do is provide a statement. So on the previous one, and John and Joanne, you guys can speak to this, how you guys did it last time, but it looked like Tyler had a letter written as the chair through exploring various accessibility plans across the province. I've seen it done a variety of ways. I've seen it where it's the chair writing it. More often than not, I probably saw the committee as a whole had a message for the community. That's my preference, but obviously you guys can decide as a team what you guys would like to do. But that would be one thing that we would have to work on from the committee is a letter for the accessibility plan. And so you guys can jump online onto the accessibility page and you'll see what I'm talking about. But previously Tyler did that. So John and Joanne, do you guys want to chime in on how you guys did that in the previous term? How you guys decided who wanted to write it and how you guys kind of helped each other out on that piece?
I think I remember.
Yeah, Tyler wrote it.
Oh dear. To tell you the truth, I can't remember too much about it. Isn't that terrible?
Yeah, we copied a lot of it and then just edit, paste, and try to make it a little more personable. But I agree, maybe the committee as a whole, because we do change the chair often. Yeah. But they'll be front and centered, and everybody else supporting.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I like that. So what I'm thinking is, Rochelle, you are the current chair. So why don't I let you kind of take a first stab at taking a look at what the previous chair kind of put together. And then you can obviously communicate with all of us where you want to take this. I'll let you be the lead on just kind of formulating this and kind of guide the team through how you want to kind of see this letter built together. And then obviously all of you guys are welcome to kind of chime in, edit, red pen it as well. And that way we have that piece ready for the accessibility plan. But that'll be the one piece of homework from you guys for next month. So if I can get that in the next 3-4 weeks, fantastic. It's not like that's not a hard deadline, but it would be ideal. So that way we kind of have something developed. From that, sorry, go ahead, Max.
I will just read it correctly, but I will not have time to write anything.
If you think your schooling is priority here, Max, I think you've got it twisted. So you focus on your school. You chime in where you can. School comes first, right? So if you're busy and you can't add too many comments, that's not a problem at all. So the rest of the committee will be able to assist you on that piece. So that's okay. From there, the other piece as well, as a part of the accessibility plan being updated for the next term, we're going to have to do some public consultations as well. So I'm thinking what we'll do is we'll probably run a couple of different consultations. This year is going to be different than previous ones, right? Because of COVID, we're going to probably have to do everything online. But what we'll do is we'll set a couple of different dates. John, I believe you and Tyler were kind of sharing chair before. I'm mixing it up. But were you guys present at all of the public consultations on the development of the previous plan, or did you kind of leave that to staff to kind of liaison with the public on that piece?
Well, we left it to staff.
Nice.
Yeah.
So I'll be setting up those dates. What we'll do is I'll probably categorize a couple of them. For example, like the design of public space, I'll leave that as its own public consultation. I think we're going to have, of all the ones that people are going to be interested in, usually that's the one where you kind of get information about parks and how we're developing things. So I'll develop that where we have our architects from landscaping, roads, operations in there with me for that public consultation. And then for some of the other categories and standards, we'll probably kind of put a couple of them together. The other big one is the information communication standard. And then like a couple of the smaller ones, for example, like transportation, we don't really focus on that piece, right? I'll probably couple that because York Region handles that piece on a regional level. I'll probably couple that with one of the other standards where people can maybe chime in about the accessible taxi situation and stuff that we have at the region as a whole. So I'll set those dates up together. You guys will be in charge of the letter. And then I will send the plan out to you guys as well with all of the indicated items that we've been talking about throughout the videos and stuff. So all the things that I've been saving that people kind of say here and there. I've categorized them a little bit differently. So this plan will look very different than the accessibility plan that you guys currently have. And I'll explain why I condensed it significantly. And the reason is, for those of you that have gone through it, the thing is like almost 90 pages. No one reads 90 pages, right? Like it's difficult to go through that much. So my rationale was take out most of the gibberish. Let's get to the point, right? Who's the Accessibility Advisory Committee? What we focus on in the standards, what our plan is. That's what the plan is going to be. And it's going to be I formatted it in a new accessible format. Now, all the other content and all the work that the previous committees had, I'm going to extract that out and put it onto the website in a different format. So I'm going to basically say in the year 2016, here are the items that were completed. 2017, here are the items completed. So that way people that want to go into the past and see what we've done have content on that. And then when they go to the plan, it's what is the committee working on? I get my information in the first 15 pages. So it's a little bit more simple. So that's what that's going to look like. And I'll send that over to you, like I said, next week, and we can start red penning it. And so this is draft one. So have at it. And then we can continue working on that. And then we'll bring that back once you guys have your comments to staff. We'll work with the clerk's team and whatnot on the next stages. And then we're hoping to bring that over to council for December time for approval. And then obviously we'll kind of go from there. So that's the next steps on the accessibility plan. So get ready for a little bit of work on that piece. Any questions before I jump to the next item?
Well,
Excellent.
you're talking about people reading this and getting something from it. Where do we stand ourselves? Like I've been three or four different parking lots, and I'm thinking of this because it hailed the other night, and snow might be coming. But I've been to 3 or 4 parking lots where, and I've talked to the managers of each store, just asked them why it happens, and they just say it's a company that comes in. The companies push the snow into the handicap parking spots, and because it's over in the corner or at the edge or near the sidewalk or something, they just shove it in there. And I've spoken to them at a couple of places and just asked, and they said, well, it's a company that comes in and does it, and they don't have anything to say about it because they don't own the property. They just got their buildings there, you know. But is there anything we can do about those types of things?
Yeah, so we're going to keep doing what we've been doing. So Matthew has been great about this last winter where he was just sending pictures in or calling us and letting us know when he caught those things. And we dispatch bylaw immediately, and they go straight to them and give them a time limit to have that removed immediately. So if it's in barrier free parking, it needs to be removed. So to your question, we have no control of obviously of who's plowing the parking lot, but we can enforce the fact that they're putting it into the wrong area. So it's like we've always done.
Does the fellow that's plowing not have a license though to do these jobs?
There is no license to be a plower.
A plow driver and for companies or anything?
No, anyone can plow. I can go put a plow on my truck as long as I'm insured. I can go.
They should get permission to plow within the town limits, and that way, then they'd know that they'd have to follow the rules. I mean, it's not giving them a big barrier. It's just following the rules.
Yeah, for private properties, we have zero jurisdiction other than enforcing the lot itself. What the developers of the plazas choose to do within terms of hiring their contractors, it's up to them.
Yeah, but then on the other hand, don't they pay taxes to you?
Yeah.
So they should be following plans that we have, especially for people that are challenged with different difficulties.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. When we go to enforce, if they don't clean it up, we would fine them, right? So that's how the municipality functions on that.
I just wondered if they knew it up front, and this is the rules we follow to make sure these places are clean. Then they would know this up front.
Yep.
You know, whatever. So that's all I'm thinking of. So anyway, okay, thanks.
Thanks, Joanne. Okay. So next item that we have on here. So I've pushed this over to the October meeting because I knew we would go well over 9 o'clock. So we're going to be looking at a couple of items that Max has been working on prior to summer and during summer periods. So he developed a new language guideline. So one of the things I had him working on was, and I think we've talked about this as a committee in the past as well, is individuals' ability or understanding of how to speak to individuals with disabilities. And so there isn't a lot of, or a great deal of information. And Max, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe you already sent this out to the committee for a review. And I think like Rochelle and a couple of other individuals already had some comments on this. So yeah, you did, right? Okay. So I'll be bringing it over as a memorandum in our next meeting. And so people will have an opportunity to read it over again, and then we can discuss as a committee and approve it. And so that's something that we can add on to our accessibility page on the website as well, is a language guideline for public and staff members as well to just be aware of. There's a couple of other pieces that will be included in that as well. So we have a disability survey that we're going to be pushing out in the month of December for International Disabilities Day. And so I'll bring that all over in the month of October. As you guys can see, we're already over 9 o'clock. So I knew we wouldn't make it to it today. So that'll be coming to you guys next month as well.
Okay. I don't think I got that information.
So I can mail that out to you again, Joanne, if you didn't get it.
Thank you.
No problem.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, thanks.
Mail to Joanne. Got it. Okay, next piece. So we are looking at a new funding project for downtown Aurora. And so this is going to be an opportunity to work in the downtown core. So we're really focusing on Yonge Street between Mosley Street and Wellington. And there's going to be some funding to work with businesses and create accessibility opportunities. And so a couple of the items, and because we're kind of past 9 o'clock, I'm going to leave this as homework and we will add it on to our next item next month as well to discuss wholesomely. That's fine. But I want you guys to start thinking about ideas or things that we would like to see coming out of the downtown core. So a couple of the items that I've already kind of put on the list as things to focus on, entries into the buildings that we have on Yonge Street. I know that's a huge issue over there. Businesses aren't going to do it until they renovate the building, right? And so I think this is an opportunity for us to assist the buildings and get those accessible entries built in for them. And so I think that's what I'm going to indicate as like almost a number one thing that we should be focusing on, is making sure that all the businesses in that area are accessible. So that's one of the things I was on there. Wi-Fi and beacons being added in the downtown area as well to kind of assist people with parking, knowing where they are, wayfinding, anything along those lines. Lighting and on-street parking were two of the pieces that were discussed as well. And then the last piece that was kind of focused on was accessible streetscape or landscape as well. And so again, this is in that small corridor, right? We're looking kind of like Mosley to Wellington. So audible pedestrian signals wouldn't really be something that we focus on in that area. But I did ask to see if we can expand out, because as you guys remember, Henderson got pushed out because of the road construction plan. So I was kind of like, maybe we can sneak that in through funding and get that done earlier. So I did ask, and we'll hear back on that piece. But those are the pieces I was focusing on for the downtown core, but I want to hear from you guys as well. So do you guys have any quick ideas off the top of your head? And then if not, you guys can obviously email, call me, chat anytime, and we can discuss other ideas if you don't have anything on the tip of your tongue right now.
Well, I just said I was going to say that I ran into a situation where I had to go to a store in town, and they didn't have an automatic door or anything. And when they was coming out, I needed help carrying stuff because I had my cane in one hand and get to the car, you know. And so he was carrying the heavy stuff, and he had to hang on to the heavy stuff and open the door. And so I said, an automatic door would be helpful, wouldn't it? and he said, yeah, that's a really good suggestion. Anyway, it just sort of, you know, I just thought I'd bring it up there quickly, you know, not saying you should have it, but I made sure because he was struggling to carry the heavy stuff and open the door at the same time for me, you know. So anyway,
that'll definitely be an item that we would like to see for all the businesses over there, is updating those entries and doorways for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, crickets. And again, I'm trying to be conscious of your time, so we will continue on, but please do send me ideas, right? If you guys have anything else, I'll keep working on this. We'll talk in a little bit more detail next month about it, but please send as much items as you possibly can, because we want to take advantage of the funding, right? And the earlier we apply, the more likely we kind of get it. So more homework. I haven't given you guys homework like all year, so there's even more now. Next thing I want to chat with you guys very quickly about is we were working on that project for the Aurora Senior Center. So it's been a heck of a project. And the reason is the ramp that we were thinking of having coming out of the west side of the building. There's too much stuff on the walls is the short answer. So what we had to end up doing was actually removing pipes out of the wall, relocating them to new locations. We've finished the drawings and we're looking to kind of start construction hopefully this year now. But we've gone ahead, done all the right stuff, so that way we have an appropriate ramp. The ramp will be coming in from the front of the senior center. So the original easy way to do it was to build the ramp coming out of the doorway and then having it go either southbound or northbound. We didn't like it. We decided to basically go ahead and start moving the piping that was coming out of the building. And so that work has been completed. And so now the ramp will run along the wall right to the front of the building. And so that people can go directly to the doorway, have their door operator that leads into there. And then people will obviously have a path that leads over to the bocce courts as well. So that's the update on the senior center ramp. We have the drawings at 95%. Right now, we're just working with Royal Securities, who's the vendor that does our door operators, to indicate how much space he wants on the platform for the door operator on the exterior side of things. And then once we get his okay, he said he was going to email me today. So I should have that, if not in my inbox right now, sometime tomorrow. So then the next thing would be to add that to the plan. Plans are ready to go. And then we would go ahead with getting a vendor to start building that ramp for us. So wanted to give you guys a quick update on that. That should be coming in. Hopefully this, as long as the construction crews aren't under too much work right now, hopefully we can get something done before winter comes around. Worst case scenario, we do it spring in 2022, but all the maps and everything, all the piping's all been moved. So we're pretty much good to go ahead on that piece. And then the last piece before I let you guys go free is I will be sending you guys the letters for your approval as well. Joanne was mentioning we send out letters to the developers whenever we think they did a good job in working with us or providing a good accessible plan. And then when I was speaking with Haley over the summer months, she did a great job working with a couple of businesses on how they can make their businesses more accessible at either no cost or low cost solution. And so I was thinking of adding on to that letter that Joanna was already mentioning, that we have one for developers and then we have one for businesses as well, where we say, thank you for taking the opportunity to meet with us and try to make your business more accessible, right? Because like we've talked about many times, most of them don't have to do anything unless they're doing a renovation or whatnot. And so them taking the opportunity to work on these things when they don't need to is obviously a benefit for us and the community. So I'll be sending those letters over to you guys for review as well. So like I said, lots of stacked homework for you guys this month. I hope you guys have an opportunity to review it. The priority items obviously is the accessibility plan, right? That's what I want you guys to focus on. We want to have that issued out for 2022. The letters and stuff, if you guys don't get to it by next meeting, no problem. We can get it the next month and whatnot, right? So I'll be sending all of that over to you guys through email, and then Joanne, I'll send that over to you through mail. So you guys will have that all in the coming weeks. And then that's it. Like I said, I'm not going to go into operating capital today because I'll have you guys here till 10 o'clock at night. So
Matt,
yes, any questions on your guys' end?
on that note, can I just do a little plug that if anyone wants to help me go to businesses, and I have a whole formula, I have like I have one for restaurants, I have one for offices already started, like a whole kind of information and stuff set up already. So a lot of it is kind of pretty standard now of what I send out to businesses. Once I've kind of looked, I do customize it a little bit. Or if you know a business that might, or have connections to businesses that might be willing to have me come in, and, you know, provide just some free information on how they could become more accessible. What I'm doing basically is I reach out, I go in, I take a look around, I take some photos. So I remember, I come home, I write the review, and then I email it to them. Normally it ends up being like 3 or 4 pages bullet points that I send them of different kind of things that they can do. So if anyone wants to help, that would be awesome.
I don't mind helping you.
That'd be awesome. I did
It's
5 over
Joanne.
the summer.
The what? Sorry?
Thanks, Joanne. I did 5 over the summer, 5 or 6
Yeah.
over the summer.
Yeah.
A couple restaurants and a couple office spaces. But I'm hoping, my goal for myself is to do 1 a month during non-summertime because I'm very busy. But if you know any businesses or you want to help as a committee, just reach out to me by email or by phone, and I would be happy to get you involved.
Have you got my home phone?
No, but I'll get it from Matt.
Yep, I can get that over.
That's great. That's right.
And
Yeah,
as
okay.
you guys can see, I'm sharing right now. This is something the town. So myself, I worked with a couple of municipalities on this back in 2019. And so we've developed an actual accessibility handbook for businesses that, Haley, I don't know if you're using, but this is available. I know I've provided this to you guys in the past. This is a great tool for speaking to businesses about no cost and low cost options for them, right? So this is something that you guys can be spreading out, providing to people. As we're updating our accessibility pages and stuff, this is going to be a tool that we're adding in there, even just in the BIA section that we have with the town of Aurora. So that's available to you guys as well. So just wanted to put that piece in there too.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. And so I'm going to end it at that. There's more to talk about. I see you guys every month now. So we will talk in October. Again, I think I've given you guys enough to do already for the rest of this month. But any last kind of questions or remarks before we pass it along to Rochelle for closure?
Just one quick one. Some of the town properties are being used as polling stations for the upcoming election. Just make sure that everything's in place, accessible wise.
Yeah, so I was talking with the clerk, what was it? I think it was on, when was I in the office? Tuesday. I saw him in the office on Tuesday, and he was mentioning that, and Ashita, you're in here and maybe you know a little bit more than I do right now about what the plan is, but I think most of the voting is going to be done online, and we're going to be setting up a spot or 2 for in-person election. Ashita, do you mind chiming in whether I'm right on that or not? Or I don't know if you know.
Through you, Madam Chair. Unfortunately, I am not aware of the details of this. So, yeah, but we can circle back, I guess, Matt, about that and just verify what the plan would be.
Yeah. So not a problem at all. Yeah, John, we'll definitely take a look into that piece.
Well, I'm surprised actually how far away my polling station is, because I'm way along Aurora Heights, closer to Haida, and I have to go to the other side of Yonge Street to go to the polling.
That's the hard part with these snap elections, right? We're given no notice, and it's like, get going, right? So we have limited spots, but we'll reach out to the clerk and address that piece, John. But
Because
They
it
have-
was the Catholic Church that I'm supposed to go to, and that's the one they've been working on up until almost now. You
Yeah.
know, doing the repairs and stuff. So anyway, but okay.
Yeah, and from my conversation with the clerk, they're only going to be using, because they're using limited spots, they're only going to be using accessible buildings to do this. So we shouldn't run into any issues. So, but I will follow up with him on that piece. Okay, Rochelle, they're all yours.
Okay.
I'm done.
Thanks. So that concludes our matters for consideration. If the committee has no further comments or questions, I'll call the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, that carries. And we have no informational items this evening. And that brings us finally to adjournment. May I have a motion to adjourn?
Haley.
Matthew.
Thanks, Haley. And a second, Matthew. Thank you very much. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And that carries. And that's us done for tonight, I guess.